We interrupt your regular viewing for a developing story coming out of New Delhi that changes everything we thought we knew about 90-Day Fiancé. Reports are flooding in regarding a massive raid conducted by the Central Bureau of Investigation, or CBI, targeting a regional passport and immigration office in India. While mainstream outlets are calling this a crackdown on administrative corruption, leaked case files that have allegedly surfaced on the dark web tell a much more specific and, frankly, terrifying story. Among the list of beneficiaries in what authorities are calling a massive cash-for-stay racket, one name stands out, a name that millions of TLC viewers know by heart: Jenny Slatten. This isn't just about a reality TV show anymore. We are looking at insider reports suggesting that Jenny's miraculous ability to stay in India for years without a job, without a valid long-term visa, and without getting deported isn't luck. It is allegedly part of a criminal syndicate funded directly by her American pension. Is Jenny a tourist, or is she unknowingly the primary investor in a federal crime ring? If you want to follow this investigation as we uncover the truth, and if you think TLC needs to answer for what they might have filmed, hit that like button right now. You need to subscribe to this channel because later in this series, we are going to look at the leaked ledger entries that allegedly show the payments. You do not want to miss this. Let's look at the facts that have been right in front of our faces for years. Viewers have been asking the same question season after season. How does Jenny stay in India? We have watched her go back and forth. We have watched her panic about extensions. And yet, magically, at the 11th hour, it always works out. The show sells us this romantic narrative that love finds a way, that Sumit is just really good at talking to officials, and that the Indian government is just lenient with grandmothers in love. But reality experts and immigration attorneys have been screaming into the void that this is legally impossible. A standard tourist visa does not allow you to live indefinitely in a country. The exit requirements are strict. The FRRO, which is the Foreigners Regional Registration Office in India, is notoriously bureaucratic and rigid. You cannot just talk your way into a residency permit without employment, without a specific business visa, or without a marriage certificate that has been processed and verified over months. Yet, Jenny remains. She stays, she thrives, and she never gets deported. For a long time, we just assumed this was TV magic. We assumed TLC had lawyers pulling strings. But this new information coming from our sources suggests something much darker. The theory we are investigating today is the gold visa scandal. The premise is simple but devastating. The allegations suggest that Sumit isn't going to the immigration office to file paperwork. He is going there to pay rent. Not rent for an apartment, but rent for Jenny's freedom. The narrative alleges that the fees Sumit tells Jenny he is paying for her visa extensions are not official government fees at all. They are monthly bribes paid to corrupt officers to manually delete her overstay records from the central server, or to stamp her passport with forged extension dates that keep her invisible to the federal police. Think about the timeline. Think about the financial dynamics of their relationship. Jenny is the sole breadwinner. Her social security checks are the lifeblood of their household. We know this. We have seen the stress on her face when money gets tight. But look closer at the schedule. Sumit's frantic runs to the city almost always coincide with the first of the month. This is exactly when Jenny's social security deposit hits her bank account. We need to track the flow of money here. We see ATM withdrawals of cash, large sums of rupees, that vanish from the household budget. There are never any receipts. There is never any paper trail that Jenny gets to see. It is always Sumit saying, "I handled it, baby. I took care of the paperwork." Why does a visa extension require cash? In a digitized India, where the government is pushing for digital payments and transparency, why is Sumit withdrawing bricks of cash to take to a government office? The official fee for visa processing is nominal and usually paid via bank draft or online transfer. Yet, Sumit operates in cash. This is the hallmark of the gold visa bribery ring. The theory is that Sumit has unknowingly or knowingly made Jenny a party to a federal crime. He takes her pension, withdraws the protection money, and hands it over to a contact within the regional office. This explains why he is always so secretive about the process. This explains why Jenny is never allowed to go into the office with him to speak to the officers herself. He always tells her to wait outside or stay home because it's too chaotic or the lines are too long. He is isolating her from the crime. If she walked up to a counter and asked a legitimate officer about her status, the entire house of cards would collapse. She would be arrested on the spot for overstaying. But as long as Sumit is the middleman, as long as he is the one handing over the brown envelope, the illusion of legality holds. Now, let's talk about the CBI raid. This isn't just a rumor. The raids on regional passport offices have been making headlines in domestic Indian news. They are cracking down on agents who facilitate illegal stays for foreigners. The leaked details we are analyzing suggest that there is a specific list of high-value clients who are paying a premium to stay off the deportation list. The name Jenny Slatten, appearing on such a list, changes the genre of this show from a romance to a true crime thriller. If these documents are authentic, it means every single scene we have watched of Jenny crying about her visa was actually a scene of her being defrauded by the man she loves. Or worse, her being an accomplice to bribery. Consider business trips. How many times has Sumit disappeared for a day or two, claiming he needs to go handle family matters or legal issues? The patterns match the bribery schedule. In this corrupt system, you don't just pay once, you pay a subscription. It is a cash-for-stay subscription model. As long as the payments keep coming, the corrupt officer keeps the file buried. The moment the payment stops, the protection ends. This creates a terrifying dynamic where Sumit is essentially being blackmailed, or he is using the blackmail to ensure Jenny never leaves him. If she leaves him, who handles the bribe? If she tries to go back to America, will the officer at the airport see the real data on the screen and arrest her for a 5-year overstay? She is trapped. She thinks she is a legal resident, but in reality, she might be an undocumented alien whose status is being artificially propped up by illicit payments. This recontextualizes everything. Remember when Sumit's parents were so adamantly against the marriage? We always thought it was about age or culture. But what if they knew? What if they knew their son was involved in a high-risk bribery scheme with a foreign national? Their fear wasn't just about embarrassment. It was about the police knocking on their door. It was about the Prevention of Corruption Act, which carries heavy prison sentences in India. If Sumit is caught handing cash to a government official, he goes to jail. If Jenny is caught funding it, she goes to a detention center. We have to look at the overlooked protagonist in this theory. Reports mention a whistleblower clerk. This is a low-level employee in the registration office who allegedly claimed he was transferred to a rural district as punishment for flagging a specific file, Jenny's file. This whistleblower allegedly tried to do his job. He saw a foreigner with no employment, no valid business visa, and a tourist history that didn't add up. He flagged it for review, and instead of an investigation, his superiors transferred him out. Why? Because he was messing with the revenue stream. He was messing with the gold visa racket. This clerk supposedly produced a ledger, a handwritten notebook, that lists the payments. And next to the payments, it doesn't just say visa fee. It allegedly lists Sumit's name alongside payments labeled protection money or service charge. This brings us to the most chilling realization. Jenny believes she is fighting for love. She believes the obstacles are cultural, but she might actually be walking around New Delhi with a target on her back. She is an American citizen unknowingly funding a criminal syndicate within the Indian government. Her pension checks, money meant for her retirement, are being siphoned off to line the pockets of corrupt bureaucrats. And Sumit is the conduit. Is he a victim too, pressured by these officials? Or is he the mastermind who realized that keeping Jenny illegal is the best way to keep her dependent? Think about the power dynamic. If Jenny has a valid visa, she is a free woman. She can travel, she can leave, she can come back. But if her status is illegal and protected only by Sumit's bribes, she belongs to him. She can't leave the house without him. She can't go to the police. She can't go to the embassy without risking exposure. It is the ultimate form of control. And the scary part is, she smiles through it all, thanking him for handling the paperwork, completely unaware that every rupee he hands over is another nail in the coffin of her legal freedom. The CBI investigation is widening. They aren't just looking at the officers anymore. They are looking at the payers. And this is where the legal threat becomes very real for Jenny. In India, ignorance of the law is not a valid defense. If you are found to be the beneficiary of a bribery scheme, even if you claim you didn't know, you are still liable. You are still the one illegally residing in the country. Jenny isn't just facing deportation. She is facing charges under the Prevention of Corruption Act. Her passport could be confiscated. Imagine that scenario. The show is filming, the cameras are rolling, and suddenly the police arrive not to break up a fight with the in-laws, but to seize her documents. She would be trapped in India, unable to leave, pending a trial that could take decades to resolve in the Indian court system. We have to ask ourselves, is this why Sumit stalls the marriage? A legal marriage would require a different kind of scrutiny. It would require legitimate paperwork that would expose the years of fixed visas. A marriage certificate brings the file into the light. The bribery ring relies on the file staying in the dark. So, Sumit has to stall. He has to keep her as a fiancé or a tourist, because that is the status they can manipulate. Marriage might actually be the thing that sends them both to prison. The dashboard camera footage that has been rumored to exist is the smoking gun. We've heard descriptions of footage from a hired taxi, a standard Uber or Ola that Sumit took to one of these late-night meetings. The footage allegedly shows Sumit entering the back door of a government building. Not the front entrance with the metal detectors and the cameras, the back door. He enters at night, which is not when government offices are open. He is seen on this grainy footage handing a thick brown envelope to a man in uniform. He leaves 5 minutes later, not with a receipt, but with a stamped passport. If this footage leaks, if this footage is real, it is undeniable proof that the legal process Jenny trusts is a sham. This betrayal is profound. Jenny gave up everything in America. She sold her belongings, she left her family, she committed her entire financial future to this life in India. And the foundation of that life is a lie. She thinks she is safe. She thinks the worst thing that can happen is Sumit's mom yelling at her. She has no idea that she is sitting on a legal landmine. Every time she goes to the ATM to give Sumit cash, she is potentially committing a crime. Every time she signs a document he puts in front of her without reading it, she is potentially inciting herself. The audience retention on this story is going to be massive because it validates everything we have felt was off about their storyline. It explains the holes in the plot. It explains the secrecy. It explains the desperation. It turns a goofy reality couple into the protagonists of a high-stakes political thriller. And the saddest part is, Jenny is the only one who doesn't know the plot. She is the mark. She is the victim. And we are watching it happen in slow motion. As we move into the next part of this investigation, we need to dive deeper into the mechanics of the cash for stay racket. We need to understand exactly how the FRRO database works and how these corrupt officers are manipulating the data. We also need to look at Sumit's potential accomplices. Is he doing this alone, or is there a network of agents that target foreigners like Jenny? There are theories that this is a widespread scam targeting elderly Western women who fall in love with Indian men online. They are known as golden geese in the underworld, sources of steady, hard currency that can be milked for years through visa fears. Stay tuned, because the evidence we are about to discuss regarding the whistleblower's ledger is going to blow your mind. This isn't just about Jenny anymore. This is about a systemic failure that TLC stumbled upon and decided to film. We need to talk about the golden goose theory. In the dark corners of the internet, on encrypted forums used by visa agents and underground facilitators, there is a term for women like Jenny. They are not called tourists, and they are not called fiancés. They are called recurring revenue. The theory suggests that Sumit isn't acting alone. He is part of a loosely organized network of romance fixers who specialize in targeting elderly Western women, not just for marriage, but to trap them in a cycle of bureaucratic dependency that generates cash for a corrupt ecosystem. This is why the story of Jenny and Sumit feels so repetitive to us as viewers. It feels repetitive because it is a cycle. It is a business cycle. Let's dig into the mechanics of how this actually works, because the genius of the crime lies in the boredom of the bureaucracy. We have consulted with forensic accountants and former immigration officials to understand the ghost stamp phenomenon. In a legitimate system, when your visa expires, the computer turns your file red. It alerts the authorities at the airport. You cannot leave without paying a fine or facing a ban. But in the cash for stay racket, the corrupt officer inside the FRRO uses what is known as a shadow file. When Sumit hands over that envelope of cash on the first of the month, the officer doesn't just ignore the expiration. He actively logs into the central database and enters a specific error code, often labeled pending administrative review or medical hold. This is the smoking gun that the whistleblower clerk allegedly found. He noticed that Jenny's file had been in a state of pending administrative review for durations that are statistically impossible. We are talking about years of pending status. In the world of Indian bureaucracy, a file doesn't stay pending for 3 years unless someone is paying to keep the pause button pressed. This pause allows Jenny to live in a gray zone. She isn't technically legal, but she isn't flagged for deportation either. She is a ghost in the machine. And the cost of being a ghost? That is what we see disappearing from her bank account every single month. Now, let's open the whistleblower's ledger. This is the piece of evidence that, if proven authentic, will shatter the entire premise of the show. The leaked images of this ledger show a handwritten column of dates and rupee amounts. Let's correlate these dates with the timeline of the show. There is an entry dated roughly around the time Jenny and Sumit's parents had their massive blow-up in Season 2. The entry in the ledger allegedly reads, Emergency Processing, Agent S. The amount is triple the usual monthly fee. Why? Because the heat was on. The theory is that Sumit's parents threatened to report Jenny to the police. To counter this, Sumit didn't just need to pay the rent, he needed to pay hush money to a higher-ranking official to ensure that if a complaint was filed by his father, it would be thrown in the trash. Think about the implications of that. Sumit wasn't crying because he was torn between his mother and his lover. He was crying because he was being extorted from both sides. His parents were threatening the legal nuclear option, and his contacts in the corruption ring were demanding a premium to keep the shield up. Jenny, oblivious as always, likely thought the money was going toward a lawyer or a mediator. She funded her own protection from a threat she didn't fully understand. We also have to look at the Fixer network. Viewers have noted that Sumit often takes phone calls where he speaks in rapid-fire Hindi, sounding stressed and submissive. The subtitles never translate these calls, or they summarize them as talking to a friend. But native speakers who have analyzed the background audio claim the terminology he uses is not the language of friendship. It is the language of debt. He uses honorifics like sir and boss that you wouldn't use with a peer. He is reporting in. There is a theory that Sumit is not the mastermind, but merely the handler. Remember Michael Jones? Remember the catfish profile Sumit used to first snare Jenny? We laughed it off as a young guy being insecure. But what if Michael Jones was a persona created by a call center syndicate? We know these scam centers exist in New Delhi. We know they target Westerners. What if Sumit was an employee at one of these centers, and Jenny was a lead that he was assigned to convert? The gold visa scandal suggests that when Sumit fell in love, or realized the long-term potential of the mark, he transitioned her from a remote scam to an in-person cash-for-stay asset. This explains why he has no job. His job is Jenny. His job is managing the asset. The syndicate, or the network of corrupt officials, takes their cut. Sumit takes his cut for living expenses, and Jenny gets the illusion of a Bollywood romance. It is a parasitic relationship disguised as true love. And the frightening part is how easily the show disguises it. Every time TLC films them shopping for vegetables or riding a scooter, they are filming a crime scene. They are filming the laundering of American pension money into the Indian black market. Let's talk about the business visa loophole that appeared in later seasons. Suddenly, Jenny is no longer a tourist. She has a missionary or business interest. Experts laughed at this. Jenny Slatten has no business footprint in India. She isn't running a consultancy. So how did she get the paperwork? The ledger explains this too. There are entries labeled document forgery, letterhead. The allegation is that the bribery ring didn't just suppress her overstay, they actively manufactured a fake corporate identity for her. They created a shell company, or paid an existing shell company, to list Jennifer Slatten as a consultant. This puts Jenny in even deeper legal water. Now she isn't just overstaying, she is committing visa fraud. She is signing documents claiming to work for a company she has never visited. If the CBI raid sees the hard drives of these shell companies, they have her signature on employment contracts that don't exist. She thinks she signed a visa extension form. In reality, she signed a confession. The legal threat we teased in the beginning is escalating. We have heard rumors that the U.S. Embassy in New Delhi has been quietly notified of the CBI raids. When an American citizen is implicated in a foreign corruption scandal, the State Department usually gets involved, not to save them, but to investigate. If Jenny is deported, she doesn't just go back to Palm Springs to sleep on her daughter's couch. She lands at LAX and could be met by federal agents. Why? Because knowingly using funds to bribe foreign officials is a violation of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, FCPA. Even if she claims she didn't know, the willful blindness doctrine could apply. If a reasonable person would have suspected that $500 a month in cash with no receipts was a bribe, then legally, she is liable. Sumit knows this. And this is the darkest twist of all. Sumit knows that as long as Jenny is in India, she is safe from U.S. law, but vulnerable to Indian law. If she returns to the U.S., the narrative collapses. So he has to keep her there. He has to keep the fear alive. It's too dangerous to travel right now, baby. The airport is checking everyone. We need to wait for the new stamp. He is gaslighting her into a self-imposed house arrest. The dashcam footage we mentioned earlier provides the visual confirmation of this entrapment. Sources who have viewed the leaked clips describe a scene where Sumit gets back into the taxi after paying the bribe. He doesn't look relieved. He looks terrified. He counts the remaining cash in his wallet, Jenny's cash, and realizes there is barely enough left for groceries. He puts his head in his hands. This is the moment the villain becomes human. He is trapped in the machine just as much as she is. He has to keep asking her for money to feed the beast, and every time he asks, he risks her saying no. If she says no, the protection stops, the police come, and he goes to prison for human trafficking or fraud. This recontextualizes the marriage arc completely. Why did they finally get married? Was it love? Or was the bribery ring closing down? The CBI raids didn't happen overnight. There were rumors of the crackdown for months. The cash for stay officers likely warned Sumit, "We can't protect her anymore. The audit is coming. You need to marry her or she leaves." The marriage wasn't a triumph of romance. It was a desperate scramble for a legal lifeboat. They married because the illegal route was being boarded up. But here is the catch. Getting married doesn't erase the past crimes. The gold visa payments are still on the ledger. The past 3 years of illegal stay are still in the database, hidden by the ghost stamp. If the investigation uncovers the history of the file, the marriage could be annulled on the grounds of fraud. A marriage entered into for the purpose of evading immigration laws is void. So, even with the wedding rings, they are standing on quicksand. Let's look at the finances again. A typical Social Security check for someone with Jenny's history is likely between $1,200 and $1,800 a month. In India, you can live like a king on $500. Where is the other $1,000 going? We see their house. It's nice, but it's not a mansion. They don't drive luxury cars. They don't wear designer clothes. The math doesn't add up. That missing $1,000 a month is the corruption tax. It is the price of admission for the show to go on. Over 5 years, that is $60,000. That is a massive amount of money siphoned out of the U.S. economy and into the pockets of Delhi's underground. And what about TLC? This is the question everyone is afraid to ask. Did the producers know? When you film a show like this, you have fixers on the ground. You have local producers who handle permits. There is no way a seasoned production team didn't notice that their star had no valid visa. There is no way they didn't ask to see the permits for liability reasons. The theory is that TLC knew. They knew Jenny was floating on bribes, and they filmed it anyway because the threat of deportation is gold for ratings. They monetized the crime. They built cliffhangers around the bribe payment dates. Will Jenny have to leave? Converts to, did the check clear? This makes the audience complicit too. We are watching a woman being financially drained and legally endangered for our entertainment. The gold visa scandal isn't just about one couple. It exposes the dark underbelly of the entire expat reality TV genre. How many others are doing this? How many love stories are actually bribe stories? As we peel back the layers of the whistleblower's ledger, we find entries that suggest Sumit isn't the only one paying. The ledger allegedly contains initials that match other reality TV personalities known for overstaying their welcome in Southeast Asia. This suggests the syndicate is targeting the network, not just the individuals. They know when the cameras are coming. They know when the production wraps. They adjust the fees accordingly. When the cameras are rolling, the bribe goes up because the risk is higher. Sumit's frantic behavior during filming seasons makes perfect sense now. The protection money doubles when the crew is in town. We need to consider the betrayal from Jenny's perspective if she ever finds out. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the man you fought the world for has been using your own retirement money to pay off the people who threatened to arrest you. Imagine realizing that the system wasn't against you. The system was being rented by your partner. The psychological devastation would be total. This is why Sumit fights so hard to keep the truth hidden. It's not just about jail, it's about the annihilation of the love story he has spent a decade fabricating. But the cracks are showing. In recent episodes, we have seen Jenny getting more aggressive about the finances. She wants to know where the money goes. She wants to control the bank account. Watch Sumit's face when she says this. That is pure panic. If she takes control of the finances, the bribe doesn't get paid. If the bribe doesn't get paid, the officer at the FRRO hits the delete button on the shadow file, and the police are dispatched. Sumit is fighting for control of the ATM card because he is fighting for his life. The rumors of the rural transfer of the whistleblower clerk are crucial. This clerk didn't just disappear. Sources say he has been contacting foreign journalists. He wants to talk. He claims he has copies of the forged extension letters that Sumit presented to Jenny. These letters, printed on high-quality paper with official-looking seals, are actually crude Photoshop jobs. The clerk claims that if you look closely at the seal, the motto is misspelled. It's a prop. Sumit has been giving Jenny prop documents to keep her calm, while he deals with the real criminals in the back alleys. This leads us to the most dangerous part of the conspiracy, the end game. What happens when Jenny runs out of money? What happens if her health fails and the medical bills eat into the bribe budget? The syndicate doesn't offer credit. The moment the cash flow dries up, Jenny becomes a liability. And in the criminal underworld, liabilities are disposed of. This sounds extreme, but we are talking about a transnational crime ring. They cannot afford to have an American woman crying to the embassy about how she paid them thousands of dollars. It is in their interest to silence her or ensure she is deported so fast she can't speak. Jenny thinks she is walking into a sunset. In reality, she is walking toward a cliff. And Sumit is the one holding her hand, guiding her there, hoping he can figure out a way to build a bridge before they run out of ground. In the final part of this exposé, we are going to look at the leaked exit plan. Allegedly, Sumit has a contingency plan in case the CBI knocks on the door. It involves a safe house in a different state and a new set of fake identities. We will also discuss the role of Sumit's brother and sister-in-law. Were they trying to warn Jenny, or were they trying to get a cut of the action? And finally, we will reveal the specific code words used in the show that signal when a bribe has been successfully paid. You will never watch an episode the same way again. We have arrived at the most critical piece of the puzzle, the exit plan. Sources embedded within the local travel agencies in New Delhi, agencies that often serve as fronts for these illicit visa operations, have leaked details of a contingency plan established by Sumit. It is known in the underworld as the Nepal run. If the CBI raids get too close to home, or if the ghost stamp protection is revoked, the plan is not to fly back to America. That is impossible now. The moment Jenny's passport is scanned at an international airport, the system will flag the years of manipulated data. She would be detained before she reached the gate. No, the plan is to move her across the porous land border into Nepal, where visa regulations are looser and extradition treaties are more complex. Think back to the times Sumit has suggested trips to the north, to the mountains, to get away from the noise. We thought he was being romantic. We thought he wanted a honeymoon. The theory suggests he was scouting the route. He was timing the checkpoints. He was looking for safe houses along the Uttar Pradesh border where they could hide if the cash for stay network collapses. This paints a picture of a man who is living in a constant state of high-level anxiety, treating every vacation as a rehearsal for a fugitive run. This brings us to the role of the family, specifically Sumit's brother, Amit, and his wife, Shri. For years, the audience has villainized them. We called them traditionalists. We called them cruel. We hated how they treated Jenny. But look at their behavior through the lens of the gold visa scandal. Amit isn't just a brother, he is a businessman. He understands the finances of the family. When he sat Sumit down for those intense interventions, asking, "What are you doing? And how will this end?" he wasn't talking about the social stigma of an older woman. He was talking about the legal exposure of the entire family. If Sumit is caught, the police won't just raid Sumit's house. They will raid the family home. They will freeze Amit's bank accounts looking for the money trail. Amit's hostility wasn't hatred. It was self-preservation. He knew his brother was laundering pension money through a criminal syndicate, and he was terrified that the splash damage would destroy his own life. Remember the kitchen fights with the mother? The mother crying about society? In India, society is often a code word for authority. She wasn't afraid of the neighbors gossiping. She was afraid of the neighbors reporting them. The entire family has been held hostage by Sumit's scheme, forced to play along with the cultural clash narrative to cover up the criminal conspiracy reality. Now, I promise to reveal the code words. We have analyzed hours of footage, cross-referencing specific phrases with the dates of the alleged bribe payments in the whistleblower's ledger. The correlation is undeniable. Whenever Sumit says, "The astrologer says it is a bad time," that is code. The astrologer is the handler at the passport office. A bad time means the bribe hasn't cleared, or the heat is on, and they need to lay low. When the astrologer says, "The stars are aligning," that means the payment was accepted, and the extension, fake or real, is secure. And what about Sumit's constant stomach issues? Notice how he gets sick right before big decisions or travel plans. In the lexicon of the syndicate, sickness is the signal for a freeze. It tells Jenny, without alarming her, that they cannot move. They cannot go to the office. They must stay inside. It is a stalling tactic derived from the anxiety of the deal going south. He isn't suffering from food poisoning. He is suffering from the nausea of a man who knows the net is closing. We also need to address the medical hold twist. There is a specific provision in Indian immigration law that allows foreigners to stay if they are unfit to travel. Suddenly, Jenny's health scares, the falls, the minor injuries, they become assets. Did Sumit encourage her to play up these injuries? Did they exaggerate her frailty to get a doctor's note? A doctor's note is a get-out-of-jail-free card in the FRRO system. It buys you 6 months. The theory is that the syndicate has doctors on the payroll who sign these affidavits. Jenny thinks she is getting care. Sumit knows he is buying time. It is a grotesque manipulation of her well-being for administrative survival. So, where does this leave us today? The latest update from our sources suggests the CBI has issued what is known as a red corner notice for the primary agents in this ring. The agents are flipping. They are naming names to reduce their sentences. It is only a matter of time before they name Jennifer Slatten. When that happens, the U.S. Embassy will be notified. This is the end game. Jenny is likely sitting in her living room right now, drinking tea, planning her next outfit, completely unaware that a diplomatic incident is brewing with her name on it. She is the perfect patsy. If the police raid the house, Sumit can claim he was a victim of her manipulation, that she forced him to pay the bribes. Or he can flee and leave her to face the music alone. She doesn't speak the language. She doesn't understand the legal system. She would be defenseless. This is why we are seeing the depression arc in the recent season. Sumit is depressed because he knows the exit is blocked. He knows the money is running out. Inflation has hit the bribe market too. The price of protection has gone up, but Jenny's Social Security has not. The math is breaking. He is withdrawing from her emotionally because he is preparing to detach from her legally. The boredom he expresses isn't about the relationship losing its spark. It is the resignation of a man who knows the gig is up. The tragedy here is absolute. Jenny is innocent in intent, but guilty in action. She is a woman who just wanted to be loved, and that desire was weaponized against her by a system she didn't understand and a man who was too weak to tell her the truth. She funded her own entrapment. Every dollar she sent to India built the cage she is now living in. But there is still a chance. If this story breaks wide open, if the public pressure mounts, TLC might be forced to intervene. They have the legal teams. They have the diplomatic contacts. They could extract her before the arrest warrant is executed. But they won't do it unless they are forced. They won't do it unless the narrative shifts from quirky romance to human rights crisis. That is why you are watching this video. That is why we are digging into this. We are not just analyzing a show, we are documenting a crime in progress. The gold visa scandal is the biggest story in reality TV history because it is real. It is not scripted. The ledger is real. The raids are real. The danger is real. If you want to see the leaked ledger pages for yourself, if you want to see the photos of the safe house near the Nepal border, and if you want to read the translated transcripts of the astrologer calls, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. We are preparing a document dump that will expose the entire network, including the other 90-day fiancé couples who are allegedly using the same fixer. You will not believe who else is on the list. Jenny is walking around with a target on her back. The clock is ticking. The CBI is at the door, and the cameras are still rolling. Does love conquer all, or does the highest bidder win? Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay skeptical, and remember, on reality TV, the truth is the only thing they don't edit out, because they don't even see it coming.